Hello, everyone, and welcome to Whale Project Showcase, highlighting Flash Mints, a platform bringing iconic and never-before-seen hip-hop photography to the world of NFTs, with the excitement of blind minting and random rarity. Our guests today are Enrico Moses, founder, and legendary street and hip-hop photographers Monroe and Jamil GS. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
First of all, right off the bat, Enrico, can you give everybody that may not be familiar because they didn't see what was going on yet, what exactly is Flash Mints and how this came about?
Yeah, so Flash Mints, the concept actually came from a late friend of mine, Chimo Du. When I first learned about NFTs, he was one of the first artists that I hit up and kind of let him know what I was doing and the power of this blockchain technology and what I thought he could potentially do in the space. And it made a lot of sense to him right away. So he dove in. He actually purchased a crypto voxel plot and started minting his NFTs. And so, from that moment, he put them out there. And then he found out that he had cancer. And unfortunately, he passed away in that time. But through that, we were able to see, the power of photography, the power of NFTs and turning these images into NFTs. And the way Chi wanted to do it, he was always about getting his art out to the people. He was selling on Sotheby's for tens and 20, I think it was like 20 some $1,000s, but he also, had his art to the people. And that was a really important thing to him. So when he minted his first NFTs, he made sure that he made a part of the collection that was accessible, because he believed the hip hop community deserved to be able to tap into some of these pieces. So when it came to creating Flash Mints, I started working with Chi's wife and his estate. I connected with Jamil, I connected with T. Eric, and some other really powerful photographers and storytellers. And we wanted to continue what Chi had started, through his journey into NFTs and really allowing at both times, to have accessibility, but then also at the same time to have exclusivity, because Chi also minted some one of ones and some 25s out of 25s for supply. So that's where the whole idea came from, and kind of continuing in this legacy that Chi started, and putting out these images in a way that fans can get a hold of them, but also at the same time there's exclusivity and there's a chance to get something really special.
That's really cool, especially that it really is something that carried on from the legacy of your friend and what he had kind of envisioned in making things both accessible and sharing, that rare, prize piece, so to speak, right? And some stuff that's out of the vaults, some of it never been seen before. The archives are just incredible. The artists you've lined up are incredible. But from a technical perspective, a couple of things. If I understand this correctly, you call it Flash, as in Flash is your equivalent of a moment for NBA Top Shot, right? It's an encapsulation of something in time. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, because I love what Top Shots have done in the space, and the concept of these moments, right? We've all seen these games and there's these moments that we remember. And so when came time for us to create Flash Mints, I see these images, there's these moments, right? And so we wanted to kind of duplicate what the NBA did in kind of creating these special moments. But our moments are these flashes, right? And we wanted to pay homage to one of the godfathers and the founders of hip hop in Grandmaster Flash. So kind of, utilizing, when that camera flashes, and that moment's actually captured, but also, paying homage to where this is all coming from. So that's where the flashes really comes from.
That's very cool. Why 90s hip hop? Like, why was that the focus of your project? Because I know you from the metaverse, right? I've seen you dabble in a lot of different things. I see some of your art behind you. I know you're building in the various, lands that you can. You're all over the place. Why this particular segment, and why 90s hip hop of all different possible genres?
Yeah, The 90s is just a really special era, at least personally. I think it's, special to a lot of hip hop fans. So we are diving into that right now, but it is beyond just 90s. There's all types of images that these artists, these photographers have captured over the years. So the fact that we're doing the 90s is really just kind of, putting out there something that's special to us, to the photographers, to the collectors. But we're definitely planning to expand it beyond just the 90s. Ricky Powell, he was a photographer for the Beastie Boys, and so he also has some stuff in the 80s and some earlier stuff as well. But yeah, we're really excited about the 90s just because it was a really special time in hip hop and kind of where things, what she used to say, that's where things kind of hit the next level.
Yeah, you won't get an argument from us on that, I'm sure. I think I was just banging Souls of Mischief on my way back to the office earlier today, so that's been a joint in regular rotation for a long time. The team that you got together to put this is pretty stellar as well as the photographers that are with us on this call today and the other ones. Can you talk a little bit about the team?
Yeah, that was a really important part of bringing this all together. For me, this project is all about collaboration, right? We have the photographers, and we wanted to bring in a team that would do justice to the technical side of this, to the production side of this. So we tapped into Alan Henna, who I learned about through a couple things. I learned about Alan when he started talking about the Mooncats, and he put that out there. So that's when I first kind of connected with Alan. But then I saw what he did with the hundreds. And I was a big fan of just like his ability to storytell through the metadata. So we connected with him and brought him on board because the metadata is also a really big part of what we're doing in Flash Mints. We're telling the story of each of these flashes, each of these moments. You get to kind of see, some of the technical aspects of the cameras that were used. So we tapped into Alan for that. And then we also tapped into the NFT media box, as they've had, some successful drops in the past, and they've kind of helped steward along this whole collection as we've been putting it out there.
Very cool. And just so I can ground everybody on how unique this is not just a collection of photography that people could possibly, scoop as NFTs. And that in itself would be very cool. But you have some gamification to it that's relatively unique, right? Especially, with photography and with the focus that you have. Can you talk a little bit about, the gamification of it and what was your thought process on the blind mints?
Yeah, so I'm an artist and I also fell into the space as a collector, right? And so collecting NFTs for me is something that I love. I love being able to get into a mint. I love being able to find projects early. And a big part of that excitement is like bringing me back to my childhood, like collecting cards, baseball cards, football cards, and, opening that pack with my friends and seeing like, what did I get? What did you get? And that randomness is a big part of what I find really exciting about NFTs, right? So in this, it was like, how do you do that with photography? How with the PFP projects, right? The generative, it's created in the actual creation of the NFTs, where these, we had to think about it a lot differently, right? And so going back to what Chi did and thinking about how he released his supplies, and he had different ranges, right? He had some that were, more for the high end clientele, and then he had some that were for everybody. So we kind of took a hybrid approach, and allowed people to be able to come in and say, I'm going to mint these, but I have the potential to get one of these one of ones. Where, as we can see with Chi's collection, the value of those are immense. And these are pieces that are treasured by the collectors. One of the most rewarding part of all this for me has been actually talking to the collectors, and how excited they are. Some of the collectors of cheese, like they're prized possessions in some of their collections. And for me, for sure, some of the cheese that I own are some of my most important special NFTs. Him being a friend, but also just the photographer and the artist that he was. So really that's where the gamification all comes from trying to reduplicate this excitement that we see in some of these, 10,000 PFP projects, but doing this more in a way that is with photography and giving people something special, and that ability to kind of, get that golden ticket. I feel like we all love that deep down.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've never actually gotten the golden ticket. I've just gotten the worthless wrapper, including all my Top Shot pulls and all of my mints. But I think it's going to change, with
Your
your
time is
platform.
coming.
Yeah,
Your
man,
time's
I need to
coming.
get in. But you have these amazing photographers with you. If you could, introduce your roster a little bit, and then I'd love to hear more from these guys on why they wanted to get involved.
Yeah, so we have Chimo Dude, which is on the screen. He was one of the first photographers that I was working with. Started working with his wife and kind of continuing what we were doing together. Then I met Jamil, through a clubhouse that I was doing about cheese collection. And Jamil's just a super talented photographer. Love his work. And then I got put into contact with T. Eric Monroe, another legendary, super, super talented photographer. You look at his archives and it's just amazing pieces, that he was able to capture by being in the right place at the right time. That's another thing about these moments, these flashes. You can't just get these moments. A lot of these celebrities, artists, they were, unattainable in many ways. And if you were there, it was before, things got really big, and then things got more unattainable. So the fact that, some of these photographers were able to capture these moments is really special. And then I'm also working with Yasmin Fula, who's Tupac's godmother and Yaki's mother. Yaki and Tupac were essentially god brothers. They grew up together. They did a lot of stuff together. They're both in the Outlaws, created music together. So Yasmin, in many ways, raised both of them, and was the family photographer. So took many pictures of Pac and Yaki while they are growing up. And so what we're doing with her is really telling this untold story about Tupac and Yaki and their friendship together, and who Tupac was. She knew Tupac and raised him. So a lot of people don't know the real Pac because they hear the stories of everybody else, that wants to, kind of highlight him in a certain image, right? But she's here to really tell the real story of him being raised by, women of Black Panthers, and how that really influenced him in the man he became and the music that he made. And then we're also working with legendary photographer Ricky Powell, who also recently passed away this year. May he rest in peace. And Ricky, as I mentioned before, was the Beastie Boys kind of main photographer. So he was really deep in the New York culture, around for the Studio 54 days, and, was taking images of Warhol and Basquiat and just some really, really amazing images from back in that era, when things were really just getting started. So those are some of the, the artists that we're working with, and I would love to pass the mic to both of them and kind of hear their story and how they're feeling in about this whole NFT space as we continue to evolve.
Well, yeah, man, you definitely came out swinging, and you didn't dip your toe in the water. You came out with a bang, because a lot of people have been talking about this and just some of the absolute iconic images and how it really encapsulates to a lot of people a time, right? It's like a time machine. They look at this and they emotively feel something. So kudos to the gentleman on stream with us right now. Jamil, I would love to hear kind of your connection here and how you got involved and, your thoughts on the NFT scene in the metaverse.
No doubt. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, man. Enrico, you really hit a bunch of important points there. And I'd like to get into some of them as well as they reflect on my journey into this space as well. Just to take it back to what your question earlier too, about what's so special about the 90s. And my take on that, and my experience on that, is that it was really a very defining moment for hip hop, and a lot of these photographs that are in these collections, they're part of defining that visual story of that era, so that's what I thought. I think that's really why it just had to come together at this point. But the way that I got into this was actually, as Enrico mentioned, was, we met, or I heard Enrico speak in a clubhouse. And a few months prior to that, I was building with Chi on several things, mostly in the physical space. And he had just dropped his NFTs. And he was really inspiring me to I kind of take the lead on that. And I had started getting approached by some curated spaces that were interested in working with me on doing this. And sort of at the same time, that's when I got connected to Enrico. And I kind of feel like that it was the sort of like the spirit of Chi that basically pushed us together, and it really felt like just a family thing. And fast forward to this weekend, after several months of hard and focused work, we really managed to pull together some of the best pieces that I have to present.
Yeah, it's a super dope collection, and I was fortunate to be able to catch a little bit of your Twitter Spaces where you had some talk as well on kind of the connection that you had to some of the photos. And I think that I think the flash correlating with the moment is perfect because there's a story with each of them, and I feel like each of them offers a little bit more intimacy than that these artists, that you normally depict these artists as. Like, you guys were able to get something special with your camera and find that that's something that just the public can't consume just by their what they were checking out in the regular media. So I'm not a photographer, so I can't quite put the words to it, but it definitely evoked emotion in me. And maybe it's because, I enjoyed music of that era and, I had my own time during that era, but it definitely has a special vibe and captures some emotion for me.
No, I'm glad to hear that, man. I mean, that's, I think there's a reason why these images still resonate today and why we're even able to talk about them. Like, they've definitely gained some value over time. They were very valuable at the moment, and they covered a certain need at the time. But I think that it's just really, it's such an important part of not just hip hop culture, but American culture now, and like, that time was for many of us what might have been like the 60s for the generation before us. It's definitely a very special time that it's not coming back, right?
Yeah,
But,
and we're blessed that you were there to put in that time capsule for us.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I also think that a reason why it also resonates is because a lot of soul, blood, sweat, and tears were poured into being there at that time. Like, it's not just, it might seem and appear very casual at some moments, but definitely a lot of sacrifice also went into being able to be in those positions. So it's pretty powerful, actually.
Right. That was a wild time in hip hop. I can only imagine, setting up for a shoot and everything that would entail with, all the celebrity status and the comings and goings there. So I bet you have stories for days, some that you probably can't tell us, I'm sure.
That too. I mean, the 90s were wild times,
Yeah, man.
Anything could happen. Anything. I'm just blessed to still be alive to talk about it.
And Eric, how about yourself? How did you get connected with this project, and what drew you to the world of NFTs and the metaverse?
I got connected to Enrico through a mutual friend, DJ Synapse, and it was the right timing because I had been working to get my work up to fine art standard because I was ready to really take this 90s hip hop thing and really put it in the face of, the fine art world. And, and was fortunate that at the same time she was, with Sotheby's as I was preparing my fine art stuff. And then, finding that the way to really share it properly, and really get it out, not only to the fine art world, but to everyone in a way that's accessible to everyone. Like when Enrico approaches, it was the right, perfect timing. And I'm truly, truly grateful and appreciative to all that he's been putting together and working with everyone to allow us to tell the 90s in a way that it was captured. And we're able to tell our own narrative that echoes off of each other, because you can see a picture of, let's say, for example, of Nas that she may have photographed in 93, and then I photographed in 94, and then Jamil photographed in 97. We give you, evolution of time, within these artists in their most unguarded nature, because it was pre-internet, they hadn't blown up yet. So it's fun to be able to share that with everyone and really allow them to get inside the personal space of these musicians and of these people that we knew as friends, and then they also knew them as entertainers as well. And we help guard their, the legacies as entertainers, but also being friends with them without their stage name.
Very cool. You mentioned you were, working towards refining some of your work for the fine art space. Did you have traction in that realm and just went with the NFT route as well in parallel, or did you see this as a new opportunity to really do some unique things with your art form?
Within the fine art world of getting fine art prints and what it takes to do that, I did some showing this past summer at a gallery that I helped to curate called the Trops in New York City, and we just ran from May until the end of July. But we did a lot of fun and interesting projects, but it didn't gain the kind of traction that was moving for me or moving for the 90s hip hop collector, if you would. So when I started to understand what opportunities existed in the metaverse and with NFTs and sharing. And for me, I have so much material that, like Jamil said, blood, sweat, and tears, that I've worked day in and day out to capture these moments, to create opportunities. For me to be able to now make this available to not only this generation, but the next generations to come that want to understand the space, collectively, we're able to offer you a library that's behind the scenes and very personal.
Yes, indeed. And I almost lost my train of thought when I realized what I was looking at was the 95 Source Awards there.
Yes,
are these part of your collection as well?
Yes, it is. I was there.
Oh.
A few pieces are part of the first collection. At least one was part of the first collection. But there's so much material, as you're flipping through, it's a music video that I actually made just from stills from the Source Awards. And I have even more material from the Source Awards to share with people. So being able to start sharing initially, using NFTs and working as a community with Flashmans and everyone else, I'm able finally to get my work to the people who are really 90s fanatics, or people just people who want to collect music history, but in a more personal and unique way, before the artist became an icon.
Right. I love that, in looking at both of your works here, I could hear the music in my head, not necessarily of the artist, but of the time, right, of the era, and how I would be vibing. It definitely took me back, but some absolutely iconic images from both of you. So Enrico, help me understand again, and everyone in the audience, how exactly does this process work with the minting, with the rarity, with the supply? Because it's not a straight up NFT drop.
Yeah, great question. So most people in the NFT space are familiar with the MetaMask, right? You have to have your MetaMask wallet. So that's where you begin, right? You have a MetaMask wallet, you have some Ethereum on your MetaMask, and you go to the website. If you want to click on that mint button on the top right of the site. Yeah, so essentially you would come to this part of the page, to the mint page, and this shows you Jamil's full collection that's available, right? And right underneath, you can kind of see what the supply is, where there's 16 100 out of 100s, there's 7 50 out of 50s, there's 6 10 out of 10s, and then there's 11 1 out of 1s, right? And you can kind of see the percentage. So you have a 0.54% chance of getting one of the 1 out of 1s in this collection, right? And you have a 2.9% chance to get one of the 10 out of 10s, 17.17% chance to get one of the 50 of 50s. and 76% chance to get one of the 100 out of 100s. So as you mint, it's a blind mint. You get a random piece out of this full collection. And then this Saturday on December 11th, we have the full reveal. So you'll be revealed whatever piece that you have in your MetaMask will be revealed to you. You'll be able to see the image and all the metadata that is accompanying to that image.
Right, and it looks like as the mints occur and the supply is usurped, the price of the mint would go up in kind. So
Correct.
there's 11. So there's 40 images that were curated by the photographers to be part of the collection, and this signifies how many are in each tier. So there would be 11 one-of-ones.
Correct.
And those are unique and different than the other ones?
Yeah, those are a unique
Okay.
image. So the one-of-ones are a completely unique image, and there will only be one person in the whole world that owns that one NFT of that image.
Wow. That's super dope.
Yeah, and one other thing to add, so we actually have serial numbers on each image. So each image is actually unique, and it has printed on it the actual supply number and when it was put out there. So every image, even though you do have a 100 out of 100, it is an NFT because you do have that unique serial number on top of it.
Right. So in theory, you could get one, serial number 1 out of the 100. Because
Exactly.
I believe I read here that it said you had detailed metadata in this as well. Is that
Yes.
the primary piece of it, or is there other components as well?
The primary component of which part?
The metadata? Is it the serial? Is there additional information or?
Yeah, so that is in the metadata, and you'll be able to go in and see the supply through the metadata and see, how many in this collection are in each of the supply chain side of things. So all of that is included in the metadata. If you're 100 out of 100 or if you're 10 out of 10.
Very cool. How has the reception been to that? Because that's just an incredible opportunity that you don't see often, right? Like this is stuff in some cases that has never seen the light of day. If I read correctly, you have some photographs of some absolute iconic hip hop legends here that have never been published.
Big time. People are loving it. Our Discord is really, really positive. We have some collectors that are just super excited, to be a part of this collection. So everybody's been really positive so far. I think that time will tell when it comes to Chimodu's original collection. So many people are so happy to own those pieces. So I'm seeing the same thing form, where that was a little bit of a slow start. And I was telling everyone, I was like, yo, get into these. And a lot of people miss those. And now, the floor of a lot of those pieces are around 0.75, 1 ETH. So it kind of shows the value of these pieces in the marketplace. If you look at Chimodu's original Genesis collection. So yeah, the receptive has been awesome. The main thing is just getting as many eyeballs on this project as possible. For us, this isn't some hype project. This isn't a PFP hype project. This is real art, and we're here to attract the right collectors. For me and what I'm trying to do with Flash Mints, I see the artist and the collector being super important together. It's not, there's not two sides of it. We're all in this together. So we want to make sure that the collector community knows that we're here for them and that the way that we're releasing these in the future is going to be with them in mind. Some of the gamification is going to include, them getting actual physical prints of some of these pieces, and all that's getting ready to be announced as these progress.
Yeah, it seemed that there was some additional utility with, prints being possible, whitelist into additional mints from, some different things. So I really like that you've taken some of what you've enjoyed in your participation as a collector and added it, to this. Where do you think the NFT photography scene is in the mind of the collecting NFT ecosystem right now? There's been a lot of discussion about it over the past week. And, obviously you've been working on this for some time. What are your thoughts on it and where it's at?
Yeah, I think we're in the first inning of all of this. I think that if you look at the total space in comparison to all the NFTs, photography is just a little fraction, right? And so people are starting to get an understanding of, what does this mean to own one of these pieces? I think that coming off of the era of Instagram, we're so used to kind of seeing all these images and these images being so readily available. So people wrapping their head around the fact that you now, for the first time, can own one of these digital pieces. I think that, people are starting to learn, and the people who get it, I think they're really excited. I've been seeing Whale Shark tweet about how excited he is about, NFT photography. And obviously, how, he's one of the OGs of the NFT space. So the fact that he's now seeing the power of it, if you look at some of his moves, he's not wrong. And a lot of the things that I've learned has come from, being a part of the Whale Shark community, seeing some of the moves that have been made early. So I think that if you listen to some of these people who kind of have, they show you early indicators of what's to come, then you can see that this is going to be a huge genre for years to come.
So, quick question on this this preview page. Obviously it says there's 40. There's only a handful here. So, is it a surprise, or is the full collection posted somewhere, or there's
You
some?
should be able to scroll down. If you scroll down, you can see all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Very nice. Eric and Jamil, how do you feel NFTs are in the world of photography right now? Are photographers talking about it? Is it positive? Is it just kind of bubbling?
Well, I hear it's definitely positive. I mean, there's a lot of photographers that are still trying to wrap their heads around it, and then there's a bunch of photographers that are just diving straight in. So I think that a lot of photographers are really grateful and positive about the prospects of being able to like really protect their work and protect the value of it, and sort of be in the middle of with tightly knit crews to like really dictate their own terms. That's a liberation, and also somehow be able to like just expand into new realms and new innovations and new communities. So yeah, it's very positive. Definitely speaking for myself and people that are nearby.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive thing. Some people are hesitant. That's for them to be hesitant, but for me, I'm grateful for this opportunity of time of being able to share to the masses in a way that people are passionate about, and also giving them moments that were guarded for so long, and they didn't get washed out by the early internet or the early Instagram or Facebook. But now we're giving people material that they didn't even know could possibly exist, and it's making people happy to know that there's more to the 90s hip hop story that we're visually offering and sharing with them. So it's a very positive thing that people are happy about.
Yeah, it's also an amazing way to consolidate, a bunch of offerings, as well,
Yes.
and package things, like really like just a power punch of information and experience. Something part of these collections too. They also hold a lot of additional information in the metadata as well. Like details, background stories surrounding the shoots. Personal experiences, stories, etc., and also technical specs as well. Like, so for all the like super photography interested or photographers themselves, there's actually a serious learning curve here too.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that we can actually communicate, the equipment we use, the film we use, the technique, to be able to share it, with another person who may not have tried, these techniques that we did with film, and it's giving people tutorials on what to try out, utilizing film to get certain effects or certain feels, and just sharing your knowledge with people all around the world is an amazing thing to be able to do in teaching.
Exactly. Things that might have been cards that could have been held a little bit close earlier, but now it's time to share even more,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
every time we talk with photographers here, the community is hungry for techniques and tips. So absolutely, that will be invaluable. I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Obviously these are from decades ago. What was the process? Did you guys have to do any touching up or digital, amplification of these, or, was it labor intensive? What did this entail?
I mean, for me, it was many years of scanning and also doing batch scanning of, just tons and tons of slides, negatives, photo prints. But every year I would set aside a certain amount of money just to scan stuff. And then I would just keep it on a hard drive and scan it, keep it on a hard drive. And once this process started, and then when I started working for the fine art world and people wanting to license my work, I had to get it, cleaned up using Photoshop and Illustrator just to enhance the color, get out the dust, the specks, because it was created on a negative or a slide. But it took some time. But even now, like once that I've gotten the process started, I'm able to pipeline, if you would, my work from a folder in my filing cabinet to an NFT. It takes time, and it takes a team of people. But thankfully, year after year after year after year of dedicating myself to this, now it has a purpose of sharing.
So for my case, I can share that only a handful of these had been prepped for fine art output, as well, for like my fine art print collections and stuff. So the rest of them, I actually went in and rescanned strictly for this drop and remastered for this drop. So I put in a lot of a lot more sweat to really pull out some things from these negatives and stuff, and really just boost the quality of them. And as far as touch up, it's only dust. I don't really retouch. I mean, again, we're from the era where before pre-digital and even early days of Photoshop, where we kind of had to get it in the shot,
And yes, absolutely.
So it's at least for me, it's really all about the lighting, like basically getting everything in the shot, and then retouching was an extreme luxury. Really, it was super expensive. You know what I'm saying? So we kind of had to work with it, getting around that. So, but yeah, man. So again, also this collection here, I mean, the quality. Like a few of these have been seen online, but never in this quality before. And that's also a bonus for whoever gets to collect these, that they're gonna have a really nice high resolution that they can cast in percent and enjoy, in really high res.
Yes, some of these are definitely mural ready to go up in my wall in a digital frame. That's for sure. I'm very interested in that because, one of the things that was striking to me is I looked at these and said, these are from decades ago. Like, these are pretty warm and these look pretty vibrant. So the process that you went through, you guys did a tremendous job because it really kept its character but modernized it.
Well, I gotta say, the warmth and that, all that's a signature of mine. It's always been like that from the get. Like really, like I really haven't fucked with the colors and all that kind of stuff. I really just, it's more about just cleaning them up.
Right.
Bring out the natural glow in the skin.
Yeah, man. Like that's, that's really about, again, the lighting and the film used and the processing techniques and stuff like that.
True.
Just to enhance all that pre-filters, like this is all pre-filters,
Yeah.
So that
No,
just adds to the story.
It's tremendous stuff. I was actually in a bunch of Twitter spaces earlier today because there's been a lot of discussion about NFT photography. And one thing that a lot of photographers had questions about was when they would create something that was a one of one, whether there was concerns relative to copyright or whether, that's not something they should be worried about. And also the impact that prints may have on an NFT. Now, you guys are talking about, you have some things in here that have never seen the light of day anywhere else, right? And some of them may be iconic that were used by the press. We'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on those two issues.
All right. Well, first of all, I mean, the image is one of one still. There's still the artist still retains the copyright. You know, the NFT
Right.
doesn't include giving away the copyright of the image. So that sort of sorts that one out. And what was the other question? Sorry.
So it was kind of tied together. There was discussion about things being one of ones, and then there was a discussion about prints and and what that meant.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, it kind of means that it's a personal preference also. As far as I mean, some of these images I have editions of in print format. Already, just some of them, not many of them at all. And that's sort of caters to a certain collector. And, maybe someone wants to collect both a print and an NFT. But so far, I've only met, either NFT collectors or print collectors, not typically both at the same time, unless it's something that's embedded, in the offering right away.
Right. And with me, in terms of the photographer owns a copyright because it's like I created that piece of art. But in terms of print, right now I have a collection of fine art prints called the Broad and Exposure Collection, which is 15 pieces. And there's, they're at 3 different sizes, and there's, 5 at one size, 4 at one size, and 6 at one size. And it's the limited amount of fine art prints that are available. But as things move forward and different collections are created, I'd still enjoy offering both, fine art prints and also NFTs. But with the NFTs, there's so many avenues that we can expand and explore for the collectors of that who really want to collect that fine art. And there's so much more we can add to it to provide them, because the images are there, and it's my job to share what is available to them, because it's for them at this point.
Yeah, and you guys have already, started down the rabbit hole of what you can do with the technology and really enhancing the metadata, right? And giving some extra value that way. But with the smart contract and the gamification, there's all kinds of interesting things that you can do. In fact, you can look right now. I think Flashmints has a gallery set up, right, with some of the works. So talk about some of the immersiveness that can happen. So a lot of cool stuff relative to, what you can do and having it, in this type of form. While I bring up, I'm sorry, gentlemen, go ahead.
I was going to say to that point, that was a big part of what me and Chi used to talk about, where all this is heading. I think that we're so early in the concept of what can you even do with an NFT, right? A lot of people right now, when they see NFTs, they might see it on their OpenSea profile, on their phone. But realistically, what are we going to do with NFTs in the future? We think about NFT casters, right? We think about things like the metaverse. And so, I think that when we're thinking about, okay, how many people love hip hop? In this country, around the world, how many hip hop fans are there? How many people are going to own metaverse spaces? And how many people are going to want to put up some type of art in their metaverse space that represents who they are, the things they love? And hip hop, just like the NBA with Top Shots, is one of those things that culturally is a phenomenon that will never go away and is really dear to a lot of people's hearts. So when we think about, where this is all going, I really think about the future of the metaverse, the future of NFT casters, and why these specific photos and these pieces of art, I think, are going to be so valuable in the future.
Even just this right now, and apologies for the blaring music. I didn't know it was going to knock my system so hard when I hopped in here. Definitely going for the immersive experience. But even just seeing this right now laid out in front of me and displayed this way, as a mini collection, it's just impactful, right? Versus when I just looked at it on the screen by itself. So it just talks to the numerous interesting things that you can do, and how this can all come together. So really looking forward to seeing how you guys continue to progress with your own collections and things that you do, as well as at Flash Mints, what you guys will have in store next. I did want to touch on something I thought was very interesting that you talked about. Hip hop and urban communities traditionally don't have the same resources and access to the technology to be able to participate as a creator and sometimes as a collector. And that was part of it sounded like part of your ethos in trying to provide a platform that could allow this technology and what it's empowering people to do to transfer over to the hip hop community. I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit and, what you were thinking.
Yeah, it's so important to think about, where have we come from? Jamil's father is a jazz musician. We start thinking about, how did jazz musicians, how did their contracts shake out? How did rock and roll contracts shake out? And we think about, how this country was shaped, from slavery, Jim Crow, all the way up until today. And many Black people here in this country haven't been able to tap into the resources that the rest of this country has been able to tap into. And we can see that playing out in all types of, scenarios, right? You go to wealthy neighborhoods, it's majority, white. You go to Black neighborhoods and, sometimes it's more impoverished, right? And so when I first learning about crypto, learning about NFTs, personally, I knew that this was going to be huge, right? I knew that this was a game-changing moment that was going to actually create generational wealth, which is one of the reasons why I started reaching out to my artist community. A lot of those artists were Black and brown people, one of them being Chi. And so, I see this as something that is revolutionary. And Chi, minting his collection has already been able to, really help take care of his family after he passed away. And so, creating these type of situations for ourselves as Black and brown people to be able to utilize the technology to get ourselves and to put ourselves into better situations financially, I think is so important. And so Flash Mints, we are a majority Black and brown team. A lot of people don't know, Alan's a person of color. A lot of the artists, are people of color, Black people. And so this is fundamentally a Black project, right? And if you look at the landscape of NFTs, there's not a lot of projects that are founded by Black people. And I think that it's so important to look at, why are these projects potentially not getting as much funding? Because as Black and brown people, we don't have as many friends that have tons and tons of capital, right? And so I think it's really important to start looking at how, as a society, can we contribute to some of these projects that are owned by Black people. There's actually this metaphor in America that white ice is colder than Black ice. And Dr. Claude Anderson from Powernomics talks about that, and the conditioning that we have in this country to unconsciously not support Black businesses, to not support sometimes Black artists. And these things are actually really deep in our psychology, so it's really important to me that this narrative is going out there, because Black and brown people, we don't necessarily have the capital to market make ourselves. So we still have to lean on a lot of white capital to market make ourselves and to be able to support our projects. So Flash Mints is really here to not only, be a very proud Black project, but to also, be leaders in this space and reach out to other people who are trying to utilize this blockchain technology to uplift, a large swath of people who historically have just been simply ignored.
Right. And I think that, representation and diversity in this ecosystem is always a topic that deserves more discussion, especially relative to ownership, right? And projects really driving it themselves. So love that you put that on the forefront and wear it on your sleeve. And certainly, I think you do it in such a way here with this project really talks to everybody, right? Like this is kind of something that's beloved by American culture. So I think to have the opportunity to get in here while you guys are early and be able to take part is a real blessing. So thank you for coming on and showing us. If I understand correctly, you just launched on Saturday, right? So the very
Yes.
first mint, like the very first editions that you've put out.
Correct. Yeah, we just launched on Saturday, and that this is the first collection that we've launched on Flash Mints. T. Eric's collection goes live on Friday, and so we have drops coming out all throughout this month, and really just putting the work out there to the people. That's the big thing that she was all about. He's like, get the work out to the people. So that's what we're here to do, is to get the art out to the people. But Nightmare, I'm just really grateful for you, for the whole whale shark, the whale community, for being so supportive. I know he's been, really spreading the awareness about photography in the NFT space. So personally, I'm just really grateful to what y'all are doing for the space, because you're truly innovators and leaders. And I think that, getting out in front of these things is so important. So I'm truly, truly thankful.
You're too kind. I mean, you guys provide the amazing photography, the amazing art, and give us something that we love to talk about and to work on every day. So really, all kudos goes to you guys. It's about 5 of, but I did have a ton of questions from the community. If you guys have a few minutes, would love to run them by you.
Yes, please.
Enrico,
Sure.
someone wanted to know, with the supply, does it lock at some point, or will it continue to be open until it's totally minted?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now we're really focused on, currently minting, and we're leaving that decision up for the future. I believe that this project should sell out. I think that when you look at the art, you look at the story of this art, and you even, not to compare, but when you compare it to other things that have sold out, I think that this deserves the awareness. I think that this deserves to get into the marketplace. So we're really here to let this do what it's going to do. So right now, we're leaving that open, but there may be a time and day where we say, you know what, we've put it out there in the market, and the market's spoken, and we cap it. But for right now, we would love to, our plan is to sell these things out.
Thank you. For the photographers, someone asked, can you tell us something that was captured with your photography that would be very different than what people's public perception of one of these artists would be?
Ooh, yeah, a quick one would be something like Old Dirty Bastard. As charismatic as he is, and as much as a character as he is, when he's not trying to be a character, like when he's just Russell Jones, he's quite delightful and witty and very smart, and he's just a very warm person.
Jamil?
Yeah. Well, a characteristic that's different than what you might perceive. I mean, I guess I could take it back to one of the really early like JC shots. This one was basically probably his first professional shoot. Really, it was like a press shot for his first single release, and he was completely open and extremely humble, even though he sort of, he obviously knew, he had an idea of where he was going, right? Obviously not the grand idea, but he had an idea. But he was very, he basically, it's like whatever you want to do, let's do it. You got the vision, you got the eye, that's why we're here, let's make this happen. So I think, that's probably not where he's at today.
Right, and this was before he before his first album blew up, or when the first one was out, Reasonable Doubt and whatnot.
Before his first album.
Okay.
Before Rockefeller Records was created, basically.
Very cool.
Way back.
Someone had asked, what are some of your favorite shots in the collections? I guess if you could pick one or two of your individual collections, and I guess so we don't, overlap here, that we haven't talked about in our stories just now. If you had to pick another one, what would it be?
I'll leave that one up to T. Eric.
Trying to think which would be a good one to talk. Probably some Lauryn Hill. The Lauryn Hill hallway shot. Just being around Lauryn and having watched the growth of her and the Fugees, and at this point in 1997, she was directing a music video for Common. But to see her mature nature, just taking charge of a space, but at the same time taking a step back and being comfortable enough around me to want to take that one moment of breath, and I happened to capture it. Not happened. I definitely, focused and took a nice, calm, simple picture of Lauryn in between moments. So I'm things like that. Just we were very fortunate to be around these icons and legends as they were growing their career, and they entrusted us to be around them to make them be iconic and in the visual space.
Yeah, I'm honestly looking at all these, and I'm really proud of every single one, because again, like T. Eric was talking about, this trust, mutual trust, and just being open to create and allowing and giving the space and time to do this and taking it serious and really dedicating, presence to it. And I think that's sort of what's been given back in that capture,
Absolutely.
And why it's still there now, why it has meaning and resonance, why it resonates today. So, and looking and seeing how a lot of these people and artists that, that I had the privilege to work with and collaborate with, they're not, to see what they've become and evolved to, and a lot of them are still doing it. I mean, they're still excelling in their craft, So it's really just, and then, they've just influenced, so many people and the world really, and these images, help tell the story. So I'm just really, I love the work.
Thank you for that. And the photography enthusiast has some questions for you as well. And they're like, you better not let them leave without asking this. They said, now when you shoot, do you have one primary camera that you use, or do you have many? And if so, which one's your favorite?
Multiple. Several. Yeah. So I actually, I went from analog to digital and then back to analog again. And now, I shoot both. So my primary cameras are Hasselblad. There's a 553. And then also I shoot with Canon and Pentax. Those are my preferred cameras. So Pentax, I'm speaking of 6.7 medium format. That's for me. What about you, T?
I never, 1998, I sort of stepped out of being an active photographer, but I still have my cameras, and I actually have a shoot coming up soon. There's a weird echo in here. But to answer the question, my favorite camera, and I'm actually going to go buy it again, was a Canon AE1 program, and I shot a lot of work on that camera. Then I went up to a Canon T90, and then now I have a Canon Elan 2, I think it is, and it's still a film camera, and I captured a lot, like around 97, 98 with that camera. But my favorite one is my Yashica Matte medium format camera. It's a dual lens medium format camera, and the crispness of what I get out of it and the life and the beauty, like it just blows me away. And I remember I bought that camera for $12.
$12. Nice.
Straight
up. Another question from the community. Do you have any feedback from any of your subjects that you were going to be using their pictures for NFTs? What was the reception?
What do you say, T?
It's how do I want to answer this? People are interested when they hear about money. Yeah, my thing is, this is my work that I shot and I created, and you are the subject matter. But up to this point, there's been no interest from you to work together to create something collectively. And I'm down to do something collectively, but as it relates to the NFT, that's like asking for me to partner in the negative of, you know, a specific artist, or partner in the slide that I've been sitting on, you know, for 20 something years, guarding, protecting. You know, I even lost some material years ago in a flood, but I've done my due diligence to bring life back, you know, from 1992 to 1998.
Understood. So they are hearing things, and that perks their ears, especially when there's a lot of rumblings of success coming.
Yeah.
Here's a cool question. Someone said, obviously this is hip hop themed, but if you had to pick one song to be the vibe for your collection, what would it be?
I'll let Jamil go first.
One single song. Man, that's a really, really crazy question.
I like that they say the
honestly.
I like that they say the vibe. So it's not like you could just be
Yeah.
like, oh, this is the one of the artists that I shot.
I actually know one, and it resonates so loud, and it's not even hip hop, but it is part of the '90s, my '90s soundtrack of how I came up. It's from Fishbone, "Everyday Sunshine." Like, you know, and I thank Eric Enrico for getting me through certain days, because some days were hard to fucking get through, especially this point of, you know, bringing this fine art to this next level, and then at the same time, like the challenges of just getting through. Period. But knowing that this collection was so, not just this collection, but what I've captured, what I've shared in, and what I'm going to share to the next generation. My job to take the rough roads and like write too much and just get it out of me, because it doesn't belong to me. In many ways, of meaning that what I capture belongs to the ears that want to hear it, or the eyes that want to see it. It belongs to them. What I've been fortunate to do, you know, and I appreciate this format to finally get it out of my system, or birthing it, if you would.
Great pick.
I've been listening. I can't just pinpoint one tune. It's impossible. But, you know, a playlist that I've been going through a lot is, you know, it's like Shook Ones, Mobb Deep, Quiet Storm, Mobb Deep, and then it goes into Tribe, like Push It Along, you know, Excursions, the different Tribe albums, and then, you know, I mean, the whole, you know, Enter the 36 Chambers joint. And then a lot of Thelonious Monk, actually, too, you know, like a lot of, like, the reason why Wu-Tang really got me was that RZA sampled Monk, you know, and I grew up listening to Monk. You know, my pops used to play with Monk, so it's just household tunes, and I just recognize those piano licks. So, you know, I keep on listening and I go back, oh, that's the sample, and I go back and forth, you know, between the original take and the, you know, the sample tune. But yeah, man, that's, you know, I just got playlists going where I've been sitting there, you know, late nights retouching all the dust from these scans. You know,
Right.
I love to, I could, you know, maybe I'll share the list somewhere.
Yeah, well,
So
we would
some
love
people
that.
can-
I mean, you drop Shook
Yeah.
Ones in there. I'm like, yeah, I could picture you kind of just like your neck snapping, just angry retouching over there. It's funny though. You say, you know, it touches on some things that remind you of your childhood, because my mother loved the Gap Band, so all the time a lot of West Coast music just, you know, gets me, because it
Right.
makes me think of when I was younger. So I could definitely feel that. That was a
Of
cool
course.
question. That was a cool question.
Indeed, it was.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you so much for spending some time with us today to talk about the project. I will tell you that I'm seeing lots of comments. You know, you talked about, Eric, you talked about the journey and pushing through. People are like, they're so glad that you guys did, because this is beautiful and people definitely want to participate. And if I'm reading the comments correctly, it's like they feel like this is part of them, so they want to take, you know, they want to participate, right? They feel like this is kind of a collective thing. So you guys have something special on your hands. Thank you for sharing your photography and your art with us. And Enrico, thank you for building the platform to bring it to the masses.
Indeed, thank you, Enrico. Truly appreciate the fact that, you know, my good friend, that I've known since '93, you know, just work with you to get to where he needed to get to allow me to see it. And because we were friends and how we worked together and bringing Jamil and all these other people, like truly, I'm grateful to you and to your vision, because I have so much, that you and I know I have hip hop, but I have other stuff beyond hip hop. But this is just a starting point that I'm grateful to share in.
Most definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, man.
I
We're
appreciate
here
you.
to elevate the space.
Yeah, and I just have to send a big shout out to all of y'all, T. Eric, Jamil, Yasmin, and the spirits of Ricky and Chi, and the team, Alan, NFT Media Box. Really, I'm here because of y'all, and it's an honor to work with y'all, and just really appreciate the Whale community for highlighting this project. It's really special to me. I was just in Chi's crypto voxel plot, and it was making me emotional. The fact that he built it, he put up his photos. So this project is really near and dear to my heart. So I really appreciate everyone who supports it.
Indeed.
Well, you guys definitely have something special on your hands. One mint is already live, right? People can go in and they can scoop some of Jamil's and Eric's drops on Friday. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
So
Starts at 9 a.m. Pacific Central Time.
So I think there's, let me look at that again. I think there's 11 one of ones. Is that right?
Yep, correct. In Jamil's collection.
So after I get 2, there will only be 10 in each collection.
Exactly.
Just let everybody know, because I'm getting that 1% right off the bat.
I'm hoping I get 1 or 2 of those too.
One thing I got to shout out, I'm glad that the launch is happening Pacific time, because the one magazine that I got with early on, because of my background in skateboarding, was Thrasher. And Thrasher gave me the opportunity to have my stuff published every month that I would photograph and write the article for, so they just gave me an open door policy. So shout out to Thrasher and their openness to allowing me to do whatever the fuck I wanted, as long as, I just made something quality every month and gave it to them. And that gave me such access, because it was up to my imagination of who I wanted to shoot, what I wanted to write about, what opportunities I could create, because that was just a beautiful opportunity. So it's time to give back to, all that is, and share it within it.
Excellent. Well, good luck on your drop on Friday, and then good luck on the continued drops as the people are minting. However, like I said, I'm going to be sure to grab the one of ones, the 11 one of ones. I'm going to scoop one of them from each collection. I actually have my eyes on particular ones I got my heart set on. I'm not going to share it because I don't want to jinx it for myself, but there's some that I nearly fell out of my chair right here when I saw from both of you guys' collections. So just in case this hits the secondary before I get it, I don't want to let everybody know it's hype, so then I can get it when I got to buy it off a buyer without them trying to really, know I'm going for it. So, gentlemen, best of luck. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon with your future endeavors in the NFT space.
It's all love. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, y'all. Peace.
Thank you so much. Look forward to more.
One love.
Peace.